Hello, this is the second part of my Scratch video tutorial series. Please watch the first one if you haven't, so you can get set up on your account and sort of get the basics. Today we're going to go through another tutorial. I think it's a really good tutorial, and I always have my students do this as the second tutorial. They do that first introduction tutorial and then the second one. So what I'd like you to do, make sure you're logged into scratch.mit.edu. You can click this little logo to get to this page if you would like. You're going to click create, which will create a brand new, project for you. And then click up at tutorials. Make sure you're signed in so this saves, okay? So we're going to click tutorials, and then I want you to choose Pong game. And we're going to go through this together, okay? The nice thing is it repeats the directions a couple times. So once again, to watch the tutorial, we just hit play. When it tells us to do something, we're going to pause, we're going to do it, and then go back and press play. So let's do that together. So please be there. Make sure you have it. And actually, why don't we rename it right now? Say my Pong game or whatever you'd like. And then you'll see, well, I guess, it automatically saved. You'll be able to find it. If you lose this, go to my stuff and it'll be there. So let's watch this. Pretty cool, right? All right. So she just said first, let's pick a backdrop. So our first step, we want to go down here and you click here. It says choose a backdrop. And so choose any backdrop you want. There's some new ones in here, actually. That's pretty cool. I'm going to choose, which one do I want? I will do underwater. And you'll notice now the cat is underwater. We're going to get rid of that cat in a minute. Unless you want to use it. You can use the cat. All right, now I'm going to hit play. So make sure you pause. You choose a backdrop, okay? Come back to it. All right, so she chose a ball. You can choose a ball if you want. It's totally up to you. You can keep the cat if you want. If you want to get rid of the cat, just hit this delete button. Only do that now. Once you start programming, the program is actually connected to that sprite. And if you hit delete, you're going to have to redo it. So for instance, if I had something already programmed in there and I have it already set up and it's running, if I delete it, that code is gone. So you want to make sure you choose your sprite first. So I'm going to go down here to choose a sprite. She chose a ball. You can choose the ball as well. I would like to choose the cheesy puffs. Right? Cheesy puffs. Why not? All right. Let's keep watching. You should go do that right now. Pause it, go do it, and then we'll watch. So I want to copy this perfectly. So let's copy it, okay? So first of all, oops, sorry. First of all, I closed that accidentally. If you did that, just go back to the Pong game, okay? And I do apologize. Let's fast forward that. So the first step that she did was she went ahead and she got the forever loop around the move 15 steps. Now you'll notice the color, it's sort of that orangish color. So we click on the orangish color and we can find the forever loop and it says move 15 steps and that's blue. So we go to blue and we have move 10 steps, but let's change it to 15. So all of ours are working the same way just so you can see if you're doing it correctly. Okay? And then when I click on it, look at that. It moves forever, but the problem is it goes off the screen. So pause it, go do what I just did, and then we'll watch the next steps, okay? All right. So we want to add if on edge bounce inside of this forever loop. What this does is whatever's inside the yellow will keep running forever. All right. If it's outside of it, it'll only do it once when we start the game. All right. So if on edge, we want it to bounce. So for instance, and I'm going to drag this back out. You need to drag it back out. So now watch. If I hit this loop, it bounces. Now, mine's flipping over, and she doesn't address how to fix that. So let's see if I can remember. Do you see the set rotation style, left, right? All we need to do is make sure that it's not rotating up and down. So I think all we need to do is move this. And for now, we could put it inside of our loop. Normally, I wouldn't do that, but let's see. Now, since we did that, it won't flip over anymore. Now, you could say don't rotate at all. And now you see it doesn't even flip. If I say left, right, you'll see it actually flips directions. So whatever you want, I like it flipping directions. I think that looks pretty cool. So pause it, go do this. Okay, and I want you to add that set rotation style because even if you have a round ball, it's good to know that your object is actually flipping upside down. And I don't want you to get confused when you go to program your own games on how to fix it. So do that, pause it, and then come back. All right, so I really like that she added this. So let's make sure we do that. So she says point and direction 45. So we get the point and direction because it's blue. It's in the blue category, the motion category. We're going to make that happen before our forever loop. And I actually want you to drag this set rotation up. But you'll notice if we do that, all the code gets dragged up. That's okay, because then what we can do is just drag this lower code back into the forever loop. So watch, I detach it. I bring the forever loop over here again, and then I can drag this back into the forever loop. Now I'm going to walk through what this means in just a second. Okay, then she said the event when this flag is clicked. So this is what's happening. It is running when we click this green flag. It is going to point it in a certain direction. We want to change that to 45. I think that's what she chose. You could also type those numbers in, I think. Yeah. So when we click the flag, it's going to point in a direction of 45 degrees and set the rotation style just left to right. It's only going to do that once. If we keep it in the forever loop, it'll actually work correctly. But what ends up happening is then every time it's moving, it's having to do this. And that uses more system resources and it'll make your computer run slower. So since we don't need to set those variables each time, I guess they're not variables. Since we don't need to set that each time, there's no reason to put it in the forever loop. So now if I click this, watch what happens. Now it bounces. This starts looking a lot more like a Pong game. Very cool. So pause it, go and do what you need to do, and then come back and we'll watch the next step. All right, so we're going to choose something. She's going to choose the paddle. You can choose whatever you want. I've got fries. I think they were bouncing around. Yeah. Oh, cheesy puffs. So I need a new Sprite. So let me see which one would work well with cheesy puffs. Obviously, I could joke around with this. It could be this dude just hitting it. That's funny. Really, whatever you want. So we can go through here, a lot of different options, which is really, really cool. I think, ooh, look at all these options. All right, I think I'm just going to go with a broom because I know cheesy puffs are pretty messy, right? So the broom is going to try to catch it. So I'll choose the broom. Now I have the broom sitting here, but you'll notice it can just go right through the cheesy puffs. We're going to get to how to fix that. All right, so choose your Sprite and then come back. All right. So I really like this part. This part does confuse my students a little bit, but we can do it. It's not a hard thing at all. This is orange. So we go to orange, we get the forever loop. So it's going to run it forever. Because if it only ran it once, it would only match where the mouse is once. Right now, this doesn't move unless I click it. Now I have to move it around. That's not how we want to play this game. So we're going to say set x2. Remember, in math, we have the x and the y axis. This is the y axis. This is the x axis, right? So back and forth is the x axis. What we're saying is we want this broom to be the same x distance. So the same exact position left and right that the mouse is. So what we're going to say is we're going to drag mouse X in. Okay. Now, something cool about this program, if there's a circle here or an oval, that means any of the ovals will fit. Now, it doesn't always work correctly, but you can start playing around with those variables. Once we start learning things a little bit better, it'll work really well. So now when I say forever, you'll notice now it follows my mouse. If yours is moving differently, you might have dragged mouse Y in there accidentally or set Y to. So please make sure you did that correctly. Pause it. Go and do it. Make sure it's working correctly. I'm not clicking. I'm just moving my mouse, okay? And then come back and we'll watch more of the tutorial. Now, for right now, I want you to think, why would she add the green flag on top? So think right now. Why would she add that green flag? So hopefully you realize the reason why she added that green flag is because we want this thing where it's following our mouse. We want that to start and continue forever when we start the game by pressing the green flag. Otherwise, it would never start on its own. So it would never actually work. So let me see if I can show you that. So if I hit stop, now if I hit green, you'll notice this thing's bouncing, but it never started the code that we told for this to follow the mouse. So it's just going to sit there. So if we add this in there, still not going to do it until we hit the green flag. And now it follows it. Very cool. I hope you understood that. If not, hopefully it makes sense now. All right. So that's a really important thing. Let me see if I can get my mouse back on my screen. Okay. It's really important that you realize she said you need to click the green arrow. A lot of my students miss that. So right now we've got a basic going on. It's sort of working well. But now we're going to go step by step. We already chose a background. We already added our cheesy puffs or whatever you chose. We already did the bounce around. So we already did these steps. We don't have to do them again. They added another sprite and they programmed it. So this is where we're at. Okay. Now we hit next. It says select the ball sprite. It's interesting they have another sprite here. We'll see how that goes. Please make sure that you select the one that's bouncing around. Otherwise, this is not going to work. Now you hit next. We need to add this exact code. So let me show you what we're doing here. Okay. I was just reading it to make sure. We're going to keep this code in here. We need this code. This code is done. Okay. We're adding brand new code. So we're going to click. I'm just going based off of color to find it. So I've got orange. So I'll click on orange. I need a forever loop. Inside that forever loop, we have an if then statement. So it's saying if something happens, then do something. Okay. In this case, if our sprite, which is the cheesy puff, that's what we have selected, if the cheesy puff bowl is touching the paddle, so let's go to sensing, that's the color, that's how I found it, touching. Now, this, to get it to go in there, you actually use this side of it to line it up, and you'll see it turns white. Okay, and we need to change this because not when it's touching the mouse pointer. That's not what I want. I want it when it's touching the broom or whatever you chose. Okay, so if it's touching the broom, then turn 180 degrees. Okay, so we'll go into motion and we'll say turn, perfect, 180. So we can click on that and then just type 180, press enter, turn 180 degrees, move 15 steps, and we'll talk about why we're doing this in just a second, and wait 0.5 seconds. So that's half a second. So we are going to wait, that's orange, wait 0.5 seconds. So we need to go through the thought process on this. We're saying this thing's bouncing around, right? The broom is following my mouse. Now we're saying when this green flag is clicked, forever, check and see, is it touching the broom? If it touches the broom, turn 180 degrees. That means face the opposite direction and move 15 steps, and then wait half a second. Now the reason, I'll talk about why waiting half a second in a second. So let me hit go. Now watch. It bounces off the broom. Now it's not perfect because it's always sort of bouncing in the same direction, but that's okay. You can work on that later. But it's bouncing now. I want you to see what happens though if we don't have the wait half a second. So I'm going to take that code out. Let's see what happens now. It actually works. Sometimes there we go. Do you see how it got stuck? Sometimes it'll get stuck and it just messes your game up and it works horribly. That's not a good thing. And so what we do is say, wait half a second because you know what? Even though it turned and moved, it might still be touching the broom. And we don't want it to sort of get stuck in this forever loop. Basically, it could freeze your computer. So by adding that wait half a second, we say, okay, if it touches the broom, turn it 180 degrees, move 15 steps, but then wait half a second before you check again. And that works really, really well in this game. Awesome. So pause it and come back if you need to do that. Now we'll go to the next step. This is adding a score. So what we need to do is add a variable. Now in math, you know, like X, Y, A, B, those are variables. In programming, you can name your variable whatever you want. All right, so we're going to go over to variables. We're going to make a variable and we're going to call it score. Leave it for all sprites. That makes sense. So say score. We say okay. All right, now you'll notice score pops up here, but nothing's happening. Okay, nothing's happening at all. And that's okay. You'll also notice that score was added to your variable list. Now we're going to define that variable. What we're going to say is, right now score is 0 and it doesn't change. We need to make sure that we program something that changes that score. You might be able to figure that out on your own. Actually, maybe pause it. See if you can figure it out on your own. And then come back and see how I do it. Okay? It's up to you, but it's a good challenge. Good for your brain. So now you'll notice under orange, there's change my variable by 1. So what we can do is I'm going to drag this into our programming area. I'm going to say score instead because we want the score to change by 1, not my variable. That was something that was already there. Now I click next and watch. If we drag it into that forever loop, what we're saying now is forever check to see if the broom is touching the Cheesy Puff bowl. If it's touching, now it's going to add 1 to the score and keep it moving away. So watch what happens now. And actually, you probably already saw it. Look at that. Every time it touches, the score goes up. Very, very cool. So it's working well. I hope yours is working well. If not, make your code match mine. Okay? Pause it, come back. Now we need to be able to reset our score because obviously you don't want the score to just keep going up. So what you can do is, and I don't really like how they chose this one, but I'll show you this and then I'll show you another option. So what we can do is say, when we start a new game by clicking that green flag, we want the score, so go to variables, set, and change this to score, set your score to 0. So now the score is 25, but if I hit this, it resets it to 0, which that's cool. I like that. Me, I personally don't want to have to go up there. I actually want to make it so if I press a button, it resets it. So what you can actually do, you can say events when something is pushed. So I'm going to say R for maybe like a reset, but you can choose whatever you want. So instead, I'm going to say when R is pressed, set the score to 0. So watch this. Now I have my score, and while I'm playing, I can press R. I'm going to press R right now. It resets the score. Pretty cool. You can do whatever you want with that. All right. Lots of things to play around in here. All right, let's press next. Now it says choose a sprite. They want to add a line. Ah, that's why it was there. Okay, they want to make it basically if it hits the bottom, it ends the game. So I like that line. So we're going to add that sprite by clicking the bottom. You're going to choose whatever you want. I like a red line at the bottom for that. You can click and drag it. Okay, put it right on the bottom. I like that. I think that's a good idea. You could choose whatever you want, but that red line that obviously says like, hey, this isn't okay. It's almost like hot lava. All right, we click next. Now remember, we have the line selected right now. Okay, that's important because now we're saying when we start the game. Check forever, so keep checking until the game's over, to see if our line is touching the ball. So this one, we look for touching. Okay. Touching Cheesy Puffs or whatever you have. Remember, to get this in, you're lining up this edge almost like it's an arrow, okay? Touching the Cheesy Puffs. Then stop all. That means it's going to stop the game. Now you could add different programming in if you want, but we're going to leave it there. So it's orange, so we go to orange. Stop all. So if it touches that line, it stops all. So let me show you. I'm going to reset my score and start the game over. Now watch. Keeps doing it. Everything's great. Things are going well. If it hits that red line, it stops my game. And that's perfect. All right. So that is the end of this tutorial. I want to tell you there are some other really cool things you could do. You could make it so it makes a sound when it touches the broom or whatever you're using. It could automatically reset the game when it touches the red line. There's a lot of other things you can do. Play around with the coding. Check out other people's games. Let me show you how you can do that. Make sure this is saved by making sure you click Save Now. Now, if you want, you can click on here, you go to My Stuff, and you'll see that it's in there. So here's the one I just made. I have other ones that I made. Here's one that I made for my students, in front of my students. This is it's a trampoline with a jumping, maybe T-Rex. So that's pretty cool. All right. Lots of different ways you can make this game. Other things you can do. You can go into Scratch. This is the cool part about Scratch, and I'll make another video on it. But you can go in there. You can click on any game that you want and say you really, really like it. You think this is amazing. You want to see how they made it. You can click on See Inside, and it will actually show you all the programming. Now, this gets pretty advanced, so you're going to want to do some more tutorials to start really understanding things, okay? But remember, you can always click See Inside and see the programming of other games. To do the other tutorials, remember, you can always just go to tutorials. I'd say start a new one. Go to tutorials. And the next one I want to do is video sensing. You can choose whichever one you want, though. This is all for you, right? This should be fun. This is teaching you awesome skills, and it should be a lot of fun. And you can actually share these games with your friends as well as the whole world. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Come back soon. Make sure you're washing those hands. 20 seconds, right? Soap, water. All right. Have a great day.